Start with that and not how that last stint was, and just tell me, did you create that podium today by what you did yesterday, do you believe?
I think so. Because the first stint was super strong, and for me was super strong because we had that tire that we didn't use yesterday. I mean, on the TV page maybe you were seeing scrub tire, but it was only a tire that had done an out and an in yesterday, so it was basically a new tire. And I absolutely didn't want to use that tire in qualifying in Q3. We could have, but I chose not to for today. And I think that is really the game changer for today. The second medium was worse than what I expected. I think P4 will have been possible. But luckily there was a safety car at the end. In Imola we were on the unlucky side of things. Today we were on the lucky side of things, and I'm happy to get the podium.
You said on the radio, there's an explanation for this. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be an explanation. What do you mean? Do you mean that the team's just got to find out why the balance shifted so much in that last stint, or what's...
No, I know exactly the limitations for whatever reason, and we need to understand that changed massively from the first stint to the last stint. And the limitations were just a lot more difficult to manage in the last stint. And that's why we were losing a lot of pace compared to the first stint. We need to understand why, but I've got an explanation for it, so we'll discuss with the team. Obviously, won't give too many details here, but I'm pretty sure I know from where it's coming from.
Is that new this weekend? You understanding it and knowing where it's coming from, or?
It's not something I expected. So, yes, it's new from this weekend.
So that's a positive then, if there might be an answer there.
Yeah. I mean, we need to find a solution to it, which is not a given, but it's good that already we understand from where it's coming from.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can a podium at home hide Ferrari's real problems in 2025? Today we discover why the third place in Leclerc in the Grand Prix of Spain is much more than a simple success for the Scuderia. Barcelona, June 2025. Charles Leclerc crossed the goal in third position, in a circuit that requires precision, control and strategy. What might seem a solid result is, in fact, a partial victory that hides deep cracks. Leclerc started from the 7th position, a situation that at other times would have conditioned his career to the middle squad. However, its performance was a masterclass for rhythm management, career reading and, above all, decision-making at key moments. The Monegasque knew how to perfectly read the small details that marked differences. He took care of the tires without wasting time, maintained a constant margin about those who preceded him, and was one of the few who knew how to respond immediately to the restart after the appearance of the safety car. That security car was caused by the mechanical abandonment of Kimi Antonelli. The moment could not be more appropriate for Leclerc, who was already cutting distance with the leaders. Ferrari, with refined reflexes, took the opportunity to adjust his strategy. They set up the most recent average compound, reduced fuel load just to the limit of the permissible, and ordered Leclerc to attack in a critical window of 3 laps after the resumption. That decision, based on telemetry of rival cars, allowed him to advance 2 track positions and then benefit from a slow entry to boxes by George Russell to consolidate in podium zone. However, behind that efficiency there was a calculated risk. Ferrari knew that his car, the SF25, suffers in long sections of high thermal demand. The technical team boundly monitored brake and battery sensors. While Leclerc's car responded, it was at the temperature tolerance limit. Each lap became a thermal chess game. Leclerc, meanwhile, had to maintain that tension, attack, but without breaking the technical balance. His piloting was not just fast, it was intelligent. He knew when not to enter the suction of another car to avoid overheating. He knew how to use the DRS with parsimony so as not to saturate the ERS, and prioritized high-speed sectors for his attacks, where the aerodynamic efficiency of the car compensated for his weaknesses in slow traction. Thus, Ferrari managed to make up a weekend that, until around 25, seemed one more of frustrations. But it was not magic, it was a podium built in the thin line between the opportunity and the risk, between an accurate tactical play and a pilot equipment performance taken to the extreme. And although they celebrated on the podium, everyone in Maranello knew that this result was more an exception than a new standard. While Charles Leclerc shone with a worked and precise podium, on the other side of the Ferrari garage a very different story was lived. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, closed the Grand Prix of Spain in a modest 6th position. And although on paper that result might seem reasonable, what happened during the race exposed a structural disconnection within the Maranello team. 2 identical cars, 2 different strategies, 2 levels of performance that could not be justified only by individual talent. What was at stake was much deeper: Ferrari's ability to operate as a coherent unit. Hamilton started the race with a conservative approach. From the first laps, it was noted that his SF25 did not respond with the same fluidity as his partners. His rhythm was erratic, his times by return fluctuated without a clear and, the most alarming tendency, the British reported problems with the rear brakes from the first stint. Each long braking, each deceleration in medium curve, forced him to manually compensate for the distribution of braking from the steering wheel, losing valuable tenths. It is not a simple discomfort. In Formula One, losing confidence in the braking system is like running with bandaged eyes. The most worrying, however, happened in boxes. At the second stop, Ferrari decided to adjust the front wing angle without prior notice. It was an aggressive change designed to improve the car response in fast curves, but that completely altered the general balance of the car. Hamilton left boxes without knowing that his car would behave radically differently. The change affected his driving style, made it more vulnerable in traction, and forced constant curve corrections. Communication between pilot and engineers, that link that should be sacred in an elite team, failed at the most critical moment. It was not only a controversial technical decision, but a fracture in internal trust. To this was added another symbolic and painful element. In the last laps, Hamilton was surpassed by Nico Hülkenberg at the wheel of a Sauber, a car that, at the beginning of the year, was out of any struggle projection with cutting-edge teams. This advance was not only a blow to the morale of Hamilton, it was a warning sign for Ferrari. A reminder that, when the technical execution is not aligned with the pilot's talent, even the most unexpected rivals can become threat. The difference between the two Ferrari was not the car, but the operational structure that surrounded them. Leclerc had a strategy adapted to their needs, with fine and timely adjustments. Hamilton received improvised solutions, failed communications, and decisions that broke their connection with the car. This not only calls into question the consistency of the team, but also raises a fundamental question for the future of the season. Can Ferrari extract the best of Hamilton if he fails to synchronize his style and experience? The reality is that, although both pilots wear the same red, they are not competing in equal internal conditions. And that, more than a performance difference, is a deep symptom of a team still trapped in its old contradictions. The Spain Grand Prix was also the stage chosen by Ferrari to introduce a series of key updates in its SF25. The objective was clear: adapt to the new technical directives and optimize aerodynamic performance in a circuit that combines high load curves with sustained acceleration sections. The improvements included a revised version of the front wing, which integrated a new load distribution along the rope, as well as modifications in the terminal plates and the outer surfaces. All this under the framework of Articles 3.15.4 and 3.15.5 of the technical regulation, which now limit the flexibility of certain aerodynamic elements and require a more direct efficiency in the frontal airflow. The rear wing also received adjustments to increase stability in a straight line and improve the DRS, which remains a weak point of the SF25 compared to its direct rivals. This redesign included a new geometry of the superior flap and a reconfiguration of the support pillars to reduce the drag without sacrificing load. On paper, these improvements should translate into greater consistency in rapid curves and a more immediate response in changes of direction. However, what was expected as a natural evolution ended up evidencing a more structural problem: the extreme sensitivity of the car to aerodynamic modifications. In practice, the benefits of these updates were not distributed equally between the two pilots. Leclerc, whose driving is more progressive and less aggressive in braking, managed to adapt its style to the new balancing of the car. He felt improvements in the front axle and managed to maximize curve entry without compromising rear stability. On the contrary, Hamilton found a radically different car that he had tried during previous simulations and free training. Its most aggressive style, which demands a quick entry and intense use of the motor brake, collided with a car that now reacted with a tendency to survive in medium curve and subviring in slow curves. This imbalance is not less. In a sport where every millimeter of track counts, feeling that the car does not respond predictably is a mental and technical obstacle that slows any possibility of attacking with confidence. To this is added the little clarity in the implementation of the improvements. During the weekend, internal sources revealed that Ferrari's technical team still has no consensus about what is the best base configuration of the SF25 with these new pieces. Instead of unifying data and building on a common line of development, each pilot ended up running with slight variations in the setup, in what seems like a more typo-rated cross-validation strategy than of an official career. This experimental approach reveals that Ferrari is still looking for the real identity of his car by 2025. They do not know with certainty what his best version is, The case of Barcelona then leaves a disturbing question. Is Ferrari a team that is evolving or simply tantling in the dark? Because while it is true that the updates allowed them to compete in front, they also revealed a structural fragility. The lack of linearity between the improvements and its effect on the track, the difficulty of adaptation between pilots, and above all, the inability to make technical decisions with full conviction, are signs of a development that is not yet settled. The 2025 Grand Prix not only left a trophy in Maranello's showcases, he left above all a mirror, one where Ferrari can be observed with brutal honesty. Because beyond the podium of Charles Leclerc, what has become clear is that the Scuderia lives a permanent tension between its ambition of greatness and the structural limitations that continue to be injured. The result of Barcelona is a turning point, but not for what was won, but for what was evidenced. First, there is irreconcilable contrast between the two pilots. Leclerc and Hamilton not only represent different driving styles, but different ways of interacting with the team. Leclerc has grown with Ferrari, has been molded in its culture, understands its processes, even its inconsistencies, and has learned to optimize what is given. Hamilton, on the other hand, is an external agent with a success history that demands an environment of excellence. When that environment does not respond, the conflict does not take long to emerge. The episode of change not communicated on the front wing is just a sample of a major problem: the absence of pilot management that harmonizes visions, tools, and expectations. To this is added an intangible but fundamental aspect: the pressure. The podium at home has been celebrated, yes, but has also raised expectations. Now fans, media, and technical partners expect Ferrari to maintain this level. The margin of error is reduced, and what until now was tolerated as part of an adaptation process, from this point it will be seen as failure. The narrative has changed, and with it, tolerance to failure. So what can we really expect from Ferrari after this weekend? We can expect a team that has demonstrated the ability to compete in front, but that still does not know how to do it consistently. We can expect bright races followed by gray weekends, because its technical base is not completely settled. We can expect internal tension if the results are polarized between their two pilots. And above all, we can expect decisions about the development of the car, on the internal hierarchy, on the strategic direction of the team. Barcelona was not a complete victory, but a warning. Ferrari has shown that he has the potential to win. Now he has to show that he has the method to do it every weekend. And that is an even more demanding race than those that are fought on the track.